Here are real stories about malicious compliance that will hopefully add some laughter to your day. Thank you to the people on Reddit who shared their stories. My boss loves to call me at 6:15 a.m. to ask me if I would like to fill the shifts of the people who just called in sick. This is an everyday thing. I was bored and frustrated, so I decided to volunteer at 3:30 a.m. to call this same manager to ask if they needed extra help. He got super pissed and tried to write me up for it. I showed the GM the timestamps of the calls I had received. I don't get calls anymore. Pulled over by police for wearing AirPods. Happened this morning. Even though I made a complete and full stop at a four-way stop, I get pulled over by a police vehicle, lights flashing, the works. I turn my dash cam around to face me and whomever goes in front of the driver's side window. I roll it down and ask, what seems to be the problem, officer? Officer looks at me the way one would look at a sticky piece of gum stuck to the bottom of one's shoe. You didn't make a complete stop, he says. I adjust one of my hearing aids, lost part of my hearing due to being a touring session musician previously, and before I could speak, he firmly orders, sir, take off your earphones when I'm talking to you. I take both hearing aids off and look at him. I can read lips a little, but we're both masked so I can't understand what he's saying. I communicate in sign language simultaneously while speaking verbally. I'm deaf and I didn't understand what you just said. Can you communicate to me in ASL, American Sign Language, please? He points at my hearing aids that look like Apple AirPods, motioning me to put them on. I respond, yes, officer, without those I can only communicate in ASL. Please instruct me in ASL, and I will be compliant in every possible way. He looks at the dash cam that's neatly pointed squarely at us and mumbles, for fuck's sake. He then motions for me to go, giving me 2 thumbs up. Needless to say, I rolled up the window and drove away as fast as legally allowed. Couldn't wipe the smile off my face all day. Kentucky passes law that all schools must have "In God We Trust" displayed. School district complies. The new law is required as a result of legislation filed by State Representative Brandon Reed, a Republican minister from Hodgenville. It said in part that beginning in the 2019 to 2020 school year, local boards shall require each public elementary and secondary school to display the national motto of the United States, "In God We Trust," in a prominent location in the school. Fayette Superintendent Manny Cox said Wednesday afternoon that in complying with the new law, all schools in our district have been provided a framed version of an enlarged copy of a $1 bill to display in a prominent location. Security made us show the last 5 photos on our phone. My coworker, and absolute hero, maliciously complied at security on one of our subcontractor jobs. The customer was a manufacturer for high-end electronic components. Security was tight as a small 4-inch by 6-inch box could contain $250,000 worth of microchips. Our team was installing equipment in their facility for 1 week. A security checkpoint had to be passed every trip in or out of the building. Mr. Security Guard, Chad maybe, decided my coworker, Steve probably, was more suspicious than the other 4 techs. So every trip in or out, not only was Steve made to dump his entire contents of his backpack out on the table and go through it, Chad required Steve to show him the last 5 pictures taken on his phone to prove he wasn't stealing secrets. This is all fine, except Chad lets everyone else through without any sort of inspection. Steve is trying to stay positive, but obviously this is eating away at him. Steve tries to be overly positive and also a bit snarky with comments like, "Thank you, Paul Blart, for keeping America safe," which busts up the rest of our crew. Then, Steve has the idea that will free him the rest of the week. Wednesday comes along, Steve is overly scrutinized on our way in as usual. As we head to security at lunch, Steve says he has to go to the bathroom. He comes back out a few minutes later, absolutely giddy. Chad Blart, mall cop, stops us on our way out and asks Steve to see his camera roll. Steve gladly hands the phone over. Chad is greeted by some very peculiarly angled shots of Steve's butthole. What the F-bomb? Chad throws the phone down on the table. Oh, sorry. I thought I had a hemorrhoid and wanted to see how bad it was. Is everything okay with my pictures? Is the facility safe? Chad never checks Steve's materials again. Good on you, Steve. You don't want veggies in your chicken soup? Got it, kids. Kids are awesome at malicious compliance, but it is a two-way street, winky face. My kids can be picky eaters at times. My wife made some damn good chicken soup, but the kids were complaining that there were veggies in their chicken soup. They hate veggies. Veggies make them sick, and they wanted my wife to pick them out of the soup. We tried to tell them that good chicken soup needs veggies to taste good, but they were being stubborn. I'm sure other parents can understand. I told the kids, if you really hate the taste of veggies, I'll make soup tomorrow, and you guys can make sure I only put stuff in you like. They liked that idea at the time. The next day, I get the pot filled with water, all the typical soup ingredients out, and gathered the kids. I asked for their approval on every item. Chicken. Yes. Salt. Yes. Black pepper. No. Gross. Too spicy. Celery. No. I can't even stand the smell. Onions. No. It went on with that, with them rejecting parsley, bay leaves, and other veggies. The total contents of the pot ended up being chicken, water, salt, noodles. After the soup was done cooking, I served it up and they excitedly started to eat. A few funny faces later, and one of them said, "It tastes weird. This isn't very good." I said, "But I only put in everything you guys approved. I think, from now on, I should make the soup, right?" They looked at each other and said, "Can we have mom's soup instead?" Since that day, they haven't complained about finding veggies mixed in the food. Sure, they almost always eat around a carrot or green pea, but they understand that it adds flavor. Restaurant employee amuses himself, delights me and my kids. Yesterday, I decided to take my kids to an international chain restaurant. In this restaurant, the kids' meal comes with ice cream. But you have to serve yourself. That was a problem because there weren't any bowls beside the ice cream machine. So I thought, I know what to do. I'll simply ask an employee for some bowls. And that's just what I did. So he turns to look at the vast array of bowls behind him, some sauce-sized, some entree salad-sized, and many in between. And we realize that neither of us knows what size the kids' ice cream is intended to be. So he thought, I know what to do. I'll simply ask a manager. And he says, "Hey boss, what do we put the kids' ice cream in?" Without turning around, the boss says, "A fucking bowl? What do you think?" Yeah, but what size of bowl? The boss, with his inimitable charm, tact, and grace, says, "Just fucking give him a bowl." The employee looked back at the bowls, and then I saw him get a big grin over his face. "I apologize about that, sir. I think it's probably these ones," he says, as he hands me two of the largest bowls they have in the restaurant, practically giggling with glee. My children were similarly delighted. The manager walked by when we were halfway through and made a noise like a startled opossum, but said no actual words. Definitely going back there. A bar near me found a hilarious loophole to get around noise complaints and keep hosting live music. A bar in my town used to host live bands all the time, until one of the neighbors complained about the noise. It turns out the zoning rules didn't allow them to have live music and they almost got shut down. The bar owner read over said zoning rules and notices that the wording forbade them to have live music indoors, but they could have it outdoors. So they moved the stage to the patio section where it would be even louder for the neighbors and still be legal. They still have live music sometimes, but not nearly as often as they used to. Don't want to push their luck, I guess. I'll let you know every time I use my garbage can. I've never met anyone that said, "Oh good, NHOA. We all have trash cans, but the sight of them offends the delicate eyes of some, so I complied with the new rule of no seeing bins from the street." I find a notice of my bins being out, which is surprising because I'm the only one who touches the cans and I know I'm 100% compliant. I call in and ask why I got the notice. The full description says, "Bins in driveway with lids off." I asked if this happened to be a Tuesday, and sure enough it was. Wednesday is pickup, and I was doing my weekly cleaning. I was fucking using them, I calmly explained through gritted teeth. "Oh, okay, I'll remove the notice." "Great, but how do I prevent this from happening again?" "Oh, I guess notify us." "Alright," I said, "I'll notify you every time I'm using my trash cans." "Oh, that won't be necessary." Clearly it is. That was 5 Tuesdays ago. Today, I once again called promptly at 10 o'clock and let Alan know I was about to use my trash cans. "You know what, Mr. Endoman? I'm just going to put a hold on any trash can notices for you." "Hey, that would be swell, Alan. That would be swell." Selective obedience. My parents broke my brother of doing it the wrong way when he was 10 years old. He was upset about having to take out the trash because, according to him, it wasn't his turn. He took the trash bag out, but left it at the door. When confronted about it, he said, "Well, I took it out." I thought that I was going to see the last seconds of his life. Instead, my parents just nodded to each other and went back to watching TV. The next morning, we sat down to a hot breakfast. Our food was on the table, on plates, but my brother's was in a bag in the fridge. I almost spit out all of my food when my mother said, "You said that you wanted pancakes. So, from now on, this is how I'll do things for you." To this day, he's the most specific person that you'll ever meet. And yes, I've told his kids this story. That's it for today's video. Share your thoughts in the comments section too. We're dying to read them. And do remember to subscribe for more and check out our cool merch in the description.